Hi, and welcome to the FARcast. I'm Alex Helmbrecht, and I'm joined here, as always, with my co-host, Daniel Binkard.
Hey there, Alex.
Hey there, Daniel. Our guest today is Dr. Grant Sasse, an associate professor and department chair of the counseling department here at CSE. Grant, thanks for joining us today.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
You bet. We'll get right into things, Grant. All the good stuff. How long have you taught at CSE? And then tell us a little bit more about what you teach, because the counseling program, I've always felt, is a very unique program on our campus.
Yeah, so I have, this is my second year at CSE, and I teach, like you said, in the graduate counseling program. I think this, I always get this wrong, it might be my ninth full-time year of teaching. I actually started my teaching career as a graduate student, as a GA. But yeah, so I primarily in the past have been known to be like as the teach the clinical courses, which would be practicum, internship, group. But we're in the counseling program here. We're flexible into what we teach, and I think teaching different things can give our students different perspectives on the various topics. So, but in general, clinical courses is what I've gravitated towards.
We had a colleague of yours, Dr. Tara Wilson, on the podcast last year, and I'm always amazed at just the amount of student interaction that the counseling faculty has with the students who are inside of that program. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I'm glad that you have noticed that, because I think that is one of the things that we value, is being responsive to our students, being available to our students, and I'd say even more mentoring of our students. So we are a graduate level program, so I think there's maybe a different, not that it's necessarily more than undergraduate, but there's a different level of mentorship that I think is important to our students and to us as faculty, because we're preparing the future professionals of the field. And so we share a lot of our experience with the students, especially in these clinical courses that I've taught, practicum and internship. I talk about, hey, this, the work that I've done in the field, that I'm doing in the field, and it gives them an idea of maybe how to handle situations that they haven't handled before. But, I mean, just our availability and relationships with our students is what is a big reason why I'm back. I mean, some of the best professional relationships that I've had and continue to have been from Chadron State College, specifically the counseling program, and then the undergraduate psychology program when I was in that program as well.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you kind of mentioned that as one of the reasons that brought you back, but tell us a little bit about where else that you've worked before CSC.
All right. So it's kind of hard. So do I start,
Is it chronological or
yeah, it's
by impact?
But yeah, so I guess when I left CSC as a master's student, I went to the University of Wyoming and got a doctorate in counselor education supervision there. And I was prepared. Chadron State prepared me for a accredited PhD program, and I think that's just speaks to the quality of the program. But so my first job was in Alaska.
Okay.
I was younger at the time. I didn't have kids. As a kid, my dad was a pilot in the Air Force. We did a lot of traveling around. I think one time we caught a hop on a giant C-5 airplane to Alaska, and I remember getting out. It was the middle of the summer, and it was like midnight, and it was still light out. I'm like, you can be American and live here? Like, I'm going to do that. And so always in my mind was like, I'd love to live there someday. So I ended up going to like a conference, and they have this table of like flyers for people who are looking to hire, new professionals. And there's the University of Alaska there, Anchorage. And I was like, well, is there the guy to talk to? I didn't see him, so I just emailed the name on there, and he's like, can you send me your CV and what experiences do you have? And within a couple weeks, I was on a flight up to Alaska, and before I left, was offered the gig, and so I taught in the counselor education program there, and I was at the University of Alaska for 6 years. I was promoted and tenured there. And so about halfway through my time there, the College of Education there actually closed down. And so there's three major academic units, I think they call it up there, the University of Alaska, Anchorage, Juneau, and Fairbanks. And so there's just an idea of which schools are going to kind of house the major, programs. And so anyways, with that being said, I ended up teaching out the counselor education program there and being absorbed into the psychology program. But it was perfect timing for them because they needed someone to be the director of their counseling training clinic. And so that was an awesome opportunity for me. And so I taught, they called me a clinical faculty, I think, which I like the title. That worked for me. I teach the classes I know the most about. And then, also, I'd say over half the job was just running that clinic. And so this is where master's level and PhD students come in to get their first experiences as clinicians. And so, and it was like a sliding scale clinic. We had 100 plus clients. It was an awesome thing. So
was that on campus?
Mm-hmm.
And so were the clients students?
Half were students, half were community members.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we had this deal like we don't want to be the first point of contact for students. That would be the university counseling center. But a lot of times these centers have limits and the amount of services that they can offer. I mean, someone might need a year or two of therapy, and to try to accommodate so many people to do that would be tough for them. So we were a referral source for them. So if there was someone who needed ongoing therapy, we'd be a referral source. But then we also were able to help people in the community that couldn't afford the normal prices, or maybe don't have insurance of therapy, and so we'd get them. And so that was, man, I learned a lot in that job.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, and so I loved it there. I met my wife there, Abigail. We had our daughter, Edith, who's will be 4 in November. And we had no plans on leaving. But at a certain point, having a kid changes the way you think about things. And we're like, we're not that close to family. It's kind of hard to be close to family there. So we ended up saying, well, maybe I should start looking for other opportunities. And my wife was an officer in the Army there. So she was a chemical officer, and was airborne, jumped out of planes, and I was. So it's kind of ironic. My dad was a pilot in the Air Force. I ended up marrying, and I was in the Army. I'm sure Freud would have had something to say about that, but yeah, at the end of the day, so we ended up. An opportunity fell into my lap about going to the University of St. Thomas, Houston, and it's a really good fit. I thought it would work out well. And so I went there, and while I was there, I came in as a tenured professor, an associate professor there, and I started a counseling training clinic there. So the experience that I got in Alaska, and that clinic is still running, and so they're doing well. So it's kind of the same model, and so we see students, community members, same deal, and I love the institution, but living in Houston was hard for me to kind of grasp, to grapple with as a long-term thing.
Well, yeah, I would imagine the frontier of Alaska and then going to the third or fourth largest city in the U.S.
Yeah, that's a bit of a switch.
Yeah.
And for me, it was all about, so the University of St. Thomas is a Catholic institution, and they're really, trying to get back to their identity of teaching under the Catholic intellectual tradition, and they were looking for someone who had a Catholic anthropology to help kind of integrate that into the teaching and things like that. And so I was always on board for that. But yeah, after a semester there, like I said, the relationship with the institution was good. I highly respect the institution, but at the end of the day, I had to be like, can my family live here for a long time? Mm-hmm. And so Chadron got an opportunity, came up here. And I was thinking, so one of my uncles who lives in Gordon, he actually went to Chadron State, but he's the vet there. He said something like, Chadron State has a reputation for keeping people for a long time. And if you really think about that, that's quite a testament to Chadron State, I think. Mm-hmm. And that's not always the case, but there are people who've been here a long time. And so,
sure.
So I just was kind of thinking this opportunity might not come around again. So I'm going to apply. Yeah. We'll see what happens.
Right.
Well, it's worked out.
It has. Yeah, it has worked out. So we've loved being back. The funny thing is, like, when I was dating my now wife, I said something to the extent like, hey, how do you feel about small towns? She's like, oh, I love it. She went to She's from the suburbs of Chicago, but she chose to go to I think it's Truman State it was in Missouri.
Yeah.
And so she loved. It's not a small Chadron, but still smaller. There's still, I think, dirt roads she can run on, things like that. She's like, I loved my time there. I'd love to make it back to it. I'm like, well, I have something in mind. So, 3 or 4 years down the road, it kind of panned out. So
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned that you have some family ties to Western Nebraska, and you're even an alum of CSC, ran for the track and field team. Talk a little bit about your upbringing, and kind of how important this area is to you and your family.
Well, I love that question because it's one of the harder questions I've actually struggled with in life. I don't know how many times I've been asked, "Oh, where are you from?" Do I give the long answer or do I just say something? Is kind of where I think, because being a military kid, my dad was a pilot in the Air Force. We moved around every 3-ish years, and so that is a difficult question. Mm-hmm. So it's like, well, what has been the most constant in my life? And Western Nebraska was that. So my dad was raised until the age of 13 on a ranch in Batesland, South Dakota. And then they had the opportunity to move to a ranch, I think around the age of 13, to 37 miles southeast of Gordon. And that's now the Sasse Vent Ranch. It's still in the family. And so growing up, Dad would send me to the ranch to work in the summers. Or my mom was raised on a corn and soybean farm in Holstein, Nebraska, small town. Hastings it would be like the closest town people would know maybe. And so I'd always be sent back in the summer, and I just remember all year looking forward to coming back to Nebraska. That's where I considered home. I mean, I was from birth. I was raised a Husker fan, so that that was kind of never in question. Yeah, yeah. And so yeah. I mean, military kids have a hard time saying where they're from, but I would say I'm from here. That's where my family roots are, and there's still a lot of people in the area. And so I went to a Catholic seminary for the first 2 years of my education at the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul, Minnesota. There's 2 of them, and that's one of them. Mm-hmm. And after I discerned that wasn't the calling that God had for me, it's like, well, I mean, it really wasn't a question like, let's go to Chadron State. That's people, I don't know why. That's just where I was gravitated towards. And it happened to be that at the time, I think I had 3 first cousins here at the same time. And so we knew each other pretty well growing up, working out there on the ranch. And so it just felt at home right away. And so I think over the years, I might be the 3rd generation Sasse to come to Chadron State. My grandpa Sasse came here. I had an aunt and uncle come here. And I think I'm talking people I think who went all the way through. There's been other cousins and aunts and uncles that have come to Chadron State, and then
got to get you nominated for the Family Tree Award.
Yeah, got to be close at least.
Yeah, I just thought it was cool. I didn't ever know that. I didn't ever know when I decided to come here, and my dad's like, "Yeah, Grandpa went there." I'm like, "Oh, wow," and then yeah. So who knows what the future holds, but I'd like to see Edith come here, and so that'd be pretty cool.
Well, and your cousin Clint is on the football coaching staff, so the Sasse name's well known.
Yeah, I think, sometimes I struggle with okay, his dad is my dad's cousin, so I think he'd probably be like a second cousin. But yeah, I mean, I grew up, my dad's one of 13 kids. Grew up so I have.
So you have a lot of cousins. 40
first cousins. I think my grandma has like 39 great grandkids.
Wow.
And so yeah, it's I don't know. It's, to me, for some reason, this area is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And so yeah. And did I answer your question?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So mine follow up, and of course we've been extolling the virtues of Western Nebraska, but I am curious, in all the travels that you did as a kid, what were some of the other places that stood out in your mind as happy memories kind of thing?
Mm-hmm. So I was born in Arizona. Chandler Air Force Base, which I hear no longer exists, and so that's like on my birth certificate. So, so it's like, so should I list Mesa, Arizona, or should I list this place? Yeah, okay, well, and then, I don't remember it there. We lived in Omaha. I started remembering, I think, around grade school when I was in Dover, Delaware, That was a cool place.
Yeah.
I always remember, I don't know what it is, but Mom and Dad would take us to this restaurant. I think it's called Old Mill Crab House. And they'd have like these long tables with, a cloth on it. And they'd come out with this big pot and just dump crabs onto the table. And,
Yes.
had the Old Bay seasoning.
Oh,
and I
yeah.
just still remember, like, getting cuts, with the crabs and the Old Bay seasoning getting in there. But it was, but I don't know why, but that was such an awesome time. And then,
Old Bay's the best.
oh, yeah.
It's so
It
good.
was so good. I still remember those. Just like, this is the most exciting thing ever. My parents are paying, I'm like a little kid, my parents are paying like $40 for me to eat this meal. Like, this is like, they care about me. So, and I also remember there was a large Amish community there as well. And I mean, we lived outside of Dover, so it wasn't like and I remember just seeing like horse and buggies along the roads. I'm like, wow, this is cool. And I think we even ate at an Amish couple's house once. It was just like cool to experience all these different sorts of things. And so after Delaware, where I'm not even sure, I think we went to Oklahoma for the first time, southern Oklahoma. Then I think after that I went to Colorado Springs. Then back to Oklahoma. I finished high school in Oklahoma. And so that was difficult. I mean, I was always moving schools. I was always
Right.
the new kid.
Yeah.
So that's something that's common for me. I'm used to being the new person. And so, I mean, that's difficult, but I think with time I've learned to adapt and, but so I went to, in Oklahoma, high school was from sophomore to senior. I don't know why. It was just a 3-year deal there. And so I was a freshman essentially twice.
Lucky you.
Yeah, and going and playing. I football. I was really into football, so I went and played football for them. And wow, let me tell you what, football there is no joke. Mm-hmm. I mean, I played with guys in high school. I think that went to go play for D1 teams and stuff like that. And so yeah, it was a big deal there. But so yeah, I graduated high school there, and that's what led me to University of St. Thomas, the seminary there. So. But yeah, a lot of good memories. I mean, I don't really remember ever disliking a place.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. So, what was your time on the track and field team like here at CSC, and how did your experience as a student athlete affect how you work as a professor now?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'd say it's definitely unorthodox because I was in my last year of eligibility and a graduate student when I ran track. So when I was at the University of St. Thomas, I walked onto their football team there, and I don't know if I don't know the exact number, but I may be like the second, maybe third seminarian to ever play like a NCAA like football while being in the seminary at the same time. So it was kind of cool.
Interesting,
But
yeah.
I don't claim any success, and the reason is because when I got into there, I had a history of kind of head injuries, concussion sort of things from high school that, when you want to play, you don't really speak up about. Mm-hmm. But it started catching up to me before, at the beginning of the season of my first year, playing there. So at the end of the day, I never really saw the field, but it was an opportunity to meet people. We were able, at the seminary, we had started this thing called the Last Chance Mass. So at 10 p.m. Mass at the and so a lot of football players started coming to that. So that was cool. But anyways, I kind of had to deal with the idea that I would never be able to play football again. And that was actually really hard, especially, being a sophomore in college. So when I came here, I just figured that sports just weren't in my future. But funny deal is, I think it was my junior and senior year here. In the summers, for a summer job, I went to lifeguard on the ocean of on the Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, in the ocean rescue lifeguard. Not the strongest swimmer, but I trained and I passed all the tests and all that. But they have these regional lifeguard competitions, so it's like a really competitive thing, and it kind of if you do well, you kind of get to have the swagger for the next year until the next competition comes. So they choose. There's a lot of lifeguards in there. I mean, 50, and I think they choose maybe 5 males to go participate in this, and you have your own competition. So long story short is I made the team that traveled, I think maybe to Myrtle Beach to this competition, and one of the the competitions was like a 100-meter run on sand barefoot. And so I did pretty well in that. And the funny thing is one of the like supervisors for the lifeguards knew Coach Bailey here at the time, the track coach. He's like, you should let Grant sprint for your team. You probably will do good. And so that's how it happened. And I was like, Coach Bailey, I'm like, well, let's give this a try.
And Bailey was always a master of plucking athletes from the general student body. So that worked well. That was a perfect fit.
Well, on top of that, he's like, I'll give you 5 meals a week. I'm like, sold. As a graduate.
That's all it took.
Yeah, it's all it took. I'm like, so I rationed my meals throughout the week, and like that one meal I was able to eat at the cafeteria. Man, I ate a lot. But, I wasn't by any means the fastest or whatever, but it was a great opportunity for me. And at one point he tried to have me train to be a decathlete because, I was bigger than the average sprinter. Mm-hmm. And I at the time I was lifting a lot. And so, in theory I would, but there's the pole vaulting. No, not happening. Not happening. I could not get my mind around how my feet could go up in the air with my head. It just wasn't happening. Yeah. So, but yeah, it was fun. I was on some relays and things like that. And yeah.
Cool.
I have fond memories, and I still know. There's still people in this town that I know that I ran with, and so I think that was a huge thing for me coming back. To be honest with you, just the relationships you made there. And,
it's always one of the largest teams, and usually very successful. So that's wonderful.
It was fun. Yeah. Something just one last year. It's my last year of eligibility. It's my last opportunity. Yeah, might as well. So
how is your time and your experiences as a student at CSE? How's that kind of helped you maybe become a better teacher? How has it helped you relate more to your students?
Well, I would say the fact that I'm here right now. I've literally decided to live my life and come teach at Chadron State College is just a testament to the relationships that I made with professors here. I haven't truly ever had an experience with just the availability of professors, the mentoring, the care of the professors that they showed me when I came here. I mentioned this before, but Dr. Carnot was the first person I ever met. Came in the summer before I was thinking about transferring, thought about doing psychology, met her, and and she kind of just welcomed me with open arms. And so I felt like Chadron State was a place that I could be successful, that would prepare me to be successful for the future. And that's proven to be the case. I have zero regrets of coming here. I think Chadron State is such a valuable institution, not only to Western Nebraska, but to the U.S. Biggest bang for your buck sort of thing. Great value, but just a tremendous education. And like I said, I think it's not just the subject matter or the content you learn, it's the relationships that you build. Mm-hmm. And so and Dr. Schaefer, who has passed away now, and I'm actually, the position came open when she passed away. She was a huge mentor for me that I stayed in contact with ever since I left. Mm-hmm. Hey, I'm thinking about applying for this job, or I'm thinking about this. Would you write a letter? Absolutely. Dr. Gaudet was another person that I stayed in contact with. And so that just showed me what, caring about your students, paying attention to them, being available, and can do. And so I try to do that same thing with my students. Mm-hmm. And I think we're known for that. I think our program is known for that. So we are officially now an online program, but we have not let that sort of fall away. We now have students from all over the U.S., from Alaska, and Seattle and Ohio, and it's all these different states. And so we make it a priority to make sure that they're just not a number. They're one of our students. Mm-hmm. And so I learned that from the professors here. And being that this is primarily a teaching institution, I believe that allows professors the opportunity to do that. That's highly valued here is teaching. And so a big part of that teaching is the relationships that you build with your students. And so I think Chadron State is set up in a way that allows for those relationships to be fostered. And I know I want to continue that in my own personal teaching or work here, but also, just promote that.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
So, Grant, you're involved with the Newman House, and I assume from when you were a student as well, and now you're in kind of an advisor capacity. What's it like working with young people in there and those aspects of your faith, and how do you tie all that together?
I love the Newman House here. And by the way, I think it may be the only Newman Center called Newman House.
Yeah.
It's literally in a house, right? And so all across the United States, there's been Newman Centers, and it's after Cardinal Newman, St. Cardinal Newman, and he had just a real charism to evangelize and help support college students. And so when I was a student here, I think it was also in graduate school, I became a Newman House intern. Basically, I lived on the top floor. That's kind of a private residence there, and was just helped out. And such a relational ministry that we want smiling faces, happy, welcoming, radical hospitality is a term that I like to throw out there. And so that's kind of the basis. But so I lived there I think it was probably over a year, maybe a year and a half. And when I came back, that was the first place I got in contact with. It's like, what do you need? How can we help? I was asked to be a board member, and so I'm doing that. And then from the college, it's a club, and so I'm also an advisor role as well, with Stacy Binkard, and so there's quite a few people here that give a lot of time to Newman, and a couple in the community as well, and it is bigger than I've ever seen than it was when I was here. It's just so impressive. There's some really good going on now, but we are the Newman board and the students are just top notch. It's funny, there's the homecoming royalty, and I looked at the picture like, oh, there's like 2 or 3 Newman people down there, So nice. I just think, I think we have an opportunity to just model as board members and advisors kind of what having a relationship based on God can do for others, and faith is a big part of it. So every Wednesday we do a meal, and then there's Bible studies, and I lead a men's group. Right now it's once a week. And it's awesome. It's no pressure, come when you can sort of thing. But we have regulars that come, and we last year, and we're kind of finishing this up. We started this Into the Breach series that's through the Knights of Columbus, and it's based. So this is a men's group, so it's kind of like where do we fall into the world and society as men, and what roles and responsibilities do we have? So I think that's been not just awesome for them. I get it just as much or more than they do out of it. And so big shout out to the students they are just amazing. And right now we're actually looking for our next director. So we've kind of, the board, but specifically the students have rose up to the occasion, and they are just making things happen. I mean, obviously they're not paid to do this. This is all out of just the kindness of their hearts sort of deal. But we hope to get a new director soon. But yeah, in the meantime, they're champions right now. So yeah, I'm a big fan.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's My wife is also a board member, and she's like, so there's board members and volunteers, and essentially it's the same deal. Mm-hmm. She got a promotion to board member this year. She was like, yeah, so this means you got to do more now. But she's highly involved as well. So and Edith has kind of become the Newman kid, so everyone at Newman will just knows Edith, and Edith.
Great.
Edith is more social than Abigail and I put together, so that's fun. She'll go and talk to everyone, and I think it's a lot of people have been like happy to have. I was like, is Edith going to be annoying or what? But no, people liked her.
No, that's one of the benefits of raising kids in a small town. They get experiences like that.
Yeah. So we're happy she's already involved.
Good.
Yep.
Well, what are some other things you like to do outside of work?
Assuming there's other time.
If there is spare time.
Yeah.
We're working on a 36-hour day, so we can all have more time to get some
precisely.
stuff outside of work.
Update me on that as soon as you can.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd like to. Well, in our work, we do have the 40-hour work week, but it at least as a faculty member, you're kind of your lifestyle and your job are really together, and and I love that. I love that, and I mean, living in Chadron, I mean, I don't have to get on the highway and commute 30 minutes, so it's all just really intimate, work life and Newman, and just so it's really cool to where it's all kind of together. So I don't see the things that I do necessarily outside work always separate from work, like my involvement with the Newman and all that. But taking Chadron State out of the picture, I like visiting. We like to go visit family. My parents live in Colorado, about 20 miles away from the Air Force Academy. So once a year, I try to at least go catch a game there. Oh, it's so fun. Those games are amazing.
Yeah.
The flyovers and maybe doing some tailgating, things like that. And, often what we do is we try to get together with family members to get Edith the same exposure that we got as kids to our family, to our cousins. I don't know what my parents made it a priority that we were able to spend time with our cousins, and looking back, that took an effort on their part, and I'm really grateful for that. So Edith has some cousins, up in Martin, South Dakota, and Rushville, and Gordon area, so things like that. So we're trying to make that a priority, and then any opportunity I can head out to the ranch, I do. And so I'm going there on Saturday to watch the Purdue game, and I don't know what it is. It's just I love that place, and so two of my uncles are now. My grandma, I believe she was 92, just passed away a couple 3 weeks ago, and so we had her funeral, and she's buried in Gordon, and so stopped by there on the way out to say hi, and but yeah, honestly, just doing that deal, and Uncle Bob or Uncle Pat on the ranch will give me a call and say, hey, you want to come do some work this summer or whatever, and I say yes, no matter what. I mean, and it's fencing through, standing water, perhaps there might be a leech or two in there, sort of deal.
Oh,
but I just love every bit of it. We were raised to know how to work hard, and to me, the ranching lifestyle is kind of the epitome of that. It's honest work, it's hard work, and whenever I can be a part of it, I try to say yes. So, that might be considered work, but it's more than that, you know. So
kind of a hobby/work, maybe.
Yeah. Out there, I maybe might bring out. I like to shoot guns, so I might bring in a couple guns and do some target practice or sight some things in. And so I did some hunting in Alaska when I was there. Got a moose and a caribou, but oh man, that hunting is very different than it is here. Let me tell you what. And after having to pack out the bull moose, I kind of swore off hunting for a while.
I would imagine.
I had to kind of. And this is. I think it was like September, and like you're camped out, and you're wearing waders for about a week, and you have to wear waders because it's marshy area. You wake up in the morning, you're putting on frozen waders. I'm just like, I think this is fun, sort of deal. But I hope to get into more hunting and things like that again too. So
great.
Yeah.
You keep yourself busy.
I do. Yeah. That's for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to our quick-hitting questions for you, Grant.
Okay.
So first thing that comes to mind, a favorite movie of yours?
I like. That's a hard one. I mean, there's so many different. Like, what mood am I in, right? But I always like every time I see Good Will Hunting.
Yeah.
I love that movie. It's this idea of a therapist, helping kind of a lost person and really just sticking with him no matter what throughout this, and just the impact that can have on people. And I think it's a movie, but I think it kind of speaks to the heart of a lot of therapists. So I like that, and
There were so many of those Robin Williams roles that would stick in the mind, and that was an excellent one.
Yeah, so I kind of like that sort of deal, but I think I'm pretty easily entertained. so
Or is it whatever the kid wants to watch? And that's the favorite.
Well, let me tell you what. Anytime we can watch an adult movie, we're like, so because half the time, by the time we decide we want to watch a movie, Edith, it's time for her. It's not time for her to go to bed. So it's like, okay, we'll watch a kid movie. We try to sneak in ones that we might enjoy as well, know. But by the time she's in bed, it's like, do we have enough time to start a movie?
Yeah.
Sort of thing. But we're so tired, and so it's like I took Edith to see her first Sing 2 at the movie theater. It was the first like daddy-daughter date we had, and it was awesome. So in all reality, it's like, I don't have a lot of time to think about it anymore. But every time I see a good movie, I love it. I really remember going remember Avatar. I think the movie Avatar, and when that first came out, and going to the movie theater and having like the 3D glasses, it's like, oh, this is awesome. This is the future. So I enjoyed that. But
Cool.
That's good.
How many times have you been to the top of Sea Hill?
Well, my wife likes to hike, so a lot.
Good.
Yeah, so she's out there jogging just about. She either one morning will do a jog, another morning a home workout. So she's out there a lot more than me. So I don't know how many times, but I'd say about 10. But that's funny because when I was a student here, I didn't make it up there a ton. I remember the track team, we took a picture on the sea. I think that might have been the only time I was up there at that point.
Okay.
But it's beautiful up there, and you just see so much. But we did a lot of hiking in Alaska as well. So since we had Edith, like Sea Hill hiking versus Alaska hiking is more like what a kid can do, and so
that's true.
we're trying to get her into that. So final answer, let's say 10.
Okay.
Yep.
That's good. That's good.
How about a favorite breakfast cereal? I'm wondering why this is. We haven't had this question on the list before, Alex. There must be something here.
Is it
I don't know. It looks like you like cereal.
Well, so short answer, I think I like Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Oh yeah.
Popular answer.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'm honestly more of like a protein shake in the morning type of guy now. I don't know why. I like to have my coffee, and a lot of times I'll just buy like something with like 20 grams of protein in it and chug that in the morning and call it good. My wife is a huge breakfast person, and so is Edith. So we're a little bit different in that. But the funny thing about cereal is like growing up, my brother loved cereal, and I would always complain because he'd always eat all the good cereal, and so my dad gave me the official title of cereal monitor. He's like, "Right, you are now the cereal monitor," and I was like, "It's kind of like if you want this to be your business all the time, then you'll have an official title." It's pretty funny.
I'll never forget one of my most pleasant memories of my brother and I growing up. My brother was probably 14 or 15, and so I would have been 11 or 12. My parents actually left for the weekend and left him in charge, and they gave us $20. And he and I went to the grocery store and bought all the Cookie Crisp that we could.
Nice.
And that's all we ate that entire weekend because my mom and dad would never get it for us.
$20 goes probably a long way with Cookie Crisp.
I think we got like 5 boxes, but there was none left when my parents came home.
Can you eat it anymore after that? Or?
I probably haven't had it since then, but we went hard.
That's awesome.
Grant, what's a favorite book or author of yours?
I like to read. It's kind of like, I don't know. I don't have like this weird way of like, I want to read this next. It's kind of what kind of sparks my interest. I like C.S. Lewis. I like him a lot. I specifically like the Screw Tape Letters. The Great Divorce is a good one. And like books like Mere Christianity, I've enjoyed. I'm reading a book right now, and I have a license in alcohol and addiction, licensed drug and alcohol counselor, and so there's this book called Spirituality and the 12 Steps. Learning about that's really cool, and so other books that have been influential. my wife had a conversion. She converted to actually the Catholic faith before I met her, and there's this book called Theology of the Body that was a big part of her conversion, and yeah, I've really liked that. But so Pope John Paul II, he wrote this, like, he's like a theologian, wrote this huge thing, and I started reading. I'm like, no way, this is not happening. It's just over my head, And so there's something called For Beginners. So a guy like takes this thing and makes it into like a book like this, and I really enjoyed that. So yeah, I pretty much like to read, but I'd say if I had to, like, C.S. Lewis is one of my go-tos. Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
So final question, Chadron State College, what word comes to mind?
Relationships.
Nice.
Yeah, very. I think that one is clear to me. I think, at least from my perspective, like students, that's what kept me here. I mean, I didn't know what I was going to do after an undergraduate degree. The relationships I had influenced me to make a decision to go get a master's degree. The relationships that I had here influenced me to go get a PhD. And so even just like maybe the belief in me when I might have not had it in myself goes so far. And now, and this is not just in our field. I mean, there are our program. This is all across campus. So I think relationships. I also like the mission of Chadron State too. Even though I'm going to botch this, maybe you guys can help me. It's like foster an experience of like the High Plains region and beyond.
Yeah, foster knowledgeable leaders, I think, or something like that.
Yeah. So I like the mission of Chadron State. I think that really gives credence to the idea, like, hey, it talks about the High Plains region, and this is western Nebraska, and the surrounding areas. But I mean, so take a look at what's really needed here first. Help influence professionals and leaders for the area. And we talked about western Nebraska values. I think that's important. And then beyond, because people do go out a lot. Maybe most people eventually end up leaving the area. But yeah, I think that's what makes Chadron State unique is we are a rural school. And I think that gives so many opportunities to build relationships. You're going to see people at the University of Alaska in Anchorage and the University of St. Thomas Houston. I would see people maybe at school that I would never see anywhere else, no matter what. There's so many people. Here, it's not that way.
Yeah.
And you see them at Walmart. And so the relationships you have are super important. And the way you hold yourself, not just at work, but in the community, is important. Because you don't separate, here you can't separate that. Mm-hmm. And so, I don't know. I just think there's a lot of opportunities here, and I'm a big fan of the school.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Grant. It's been a lot of fun talking to you.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I was nervous. This may be my first podcast. I definitely have turned down things in the past, but hey, you guys are swell guys. I was like,
you did great.
This can't be too painful.
No, you did great. Glad to have you on.
Yeah. Well, thanks again. I appreciate it.